Hello everyone and welcome back to UKSG Winter 2022. My name is Hud601, I am still your host, and joining us for the next run, we've got Ozmourn here, who's going to be running Superliminal Glitchless. Ozmourn, take it away.
Thank you so much, Huds. I hope everyone's doing having a wonderful time here on a Sunday morning, afternoon, evening, wherever it is you are in the world. Welcome back to UKSG. And I'm very glad to be showing off Superliminal Glitchless here. Glitchless is kind of like the main category for this game. It's the most popular. We've been getting a lot of people running this game lately because I'm actually the lead organizer of a tournament. So if after running this today, you are interested in getting into the game, joining the community, or even participating in some of the tournament itself, then please come and join us. I'm hoping that I can make a good impression. But with that, we need to start the game. Yeah, we're not going to start time right here in the first level. The time actually starts when we walk through the first door. And so first off, we need to make sure that the in-game timer is on, because the way that we verify stuff is through the in-game timer. Otherwise, if I PB, I won't, but I could, this run will be invalid. And for good luck, we are going to sign the terms of service. So timing will begin once I walk through this door. And that'll be in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. So the main mechanic behind Superliminal is actually that perception is reality. Now, what does that mean? It essentially means that every object in this game is as big or as small as it appears to be. You can interact with them no matter what distance you are away from them. And with that, we can actually resize objects and make them physically smaller or bigger in order to solve certain puzzles and do certain skips. And in the glitch categories, that mechanic itself, as well as just interacting with props overall in the game, causes for a lot of glitches. Originally, there was supposed to be a glitch showcase incentive, but I had to be moved to an earlier spot, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to see that today. But if you're interested in seeing the glitches in this game, I'd be more than happy to show you some of them in the glitch categories on our own time. Right here with this cheese is probably the best example of what I mean by perception is reality. And the resizing mechanic, you see we had a very tiny cheese turn into a very large cheese right there. This first level induction is incredibly precise movement. It's honestly, unironically, one of the hardest levels in this entire game. And that's not even, and it's also the level that we reset in the most. It's not even because it's the first level, but also because it's just insanely hard to really have a precise and fast induction. There's so much stuff that can go wrong. As we can see today, there are several things that have gone wrong with my induction. But we're just going to keep pulling on through. Coming up right here after this corner, we're going to see a good example of the game just lining itself up perfectly for us when we grab this sign up here, and we're going to resize it, make it bigger to just go onto those two buttons. You don't even have to move anything on the keyboard. It's just pure mouse movement and rotating the object. And in this last area, for this level, we're going to grab this cheese, and we're going to use it to knock down that wall. The way that works is that whenever you let go of an object, whenever it's falling, the physics of that object is actually unlocked until it hits the floor. And with that, you can actually take advantage of that in the glitch categories and cause a lot of huge out of balance glitches. But with in this category, that's pretty much the only instance that we use unlocked physics of an object in order to push down the door and go through that wall. But with that, we are going to go to the second level, Optical. It is all based around optical illusions, as the name implies. There is also a first instance of a unintended skip that we have. And the majority of the stuff that we're going to be doing is obviously just intended, but really fast, so it looks impressive. But here we're having a different mechanic that we're going to be introduced to in a bit. The first thing that we're going to do right here is take this sign and resize it against the floor. The two main mechanics of resizing something to make it bigger is either using an object that's on top of you and just having it fall down onto your head, or resizing on the floor as you're walking, like I did right there. And here is the example of an optical illusion that we're going to see here. We're going to see objects just popping out of walls if you look at them the right way, like that. There we go. A bit slow, but it's perfectly fine. right here is the unintended skip I was talking about. It is called jump resize, and we're going to jump on here, and we're going to jump, click, click, and then jump again, and then jump again. With that, when you are in midair, you are actually resizing the object underneath you, and it gets slightly bigger. So you don't even have to use any other object to get up to that platform. All you have to do is make the object underneath you slightly bigger, and we can actually use that as a certain backups in other cases. And the devs actually were originally going to make that an intended mechanic, believe it or not, but they thought it would be a bit too complicated for a casual player. However, we can only imagine the kind of puzzles they could have made if jump resizing or resizing objects underneath you was part of the intended puzzles. But as you can see, we've done a lot of taking things out of walls and just looking at things the right way in order to create objects. And in this last area, we're gonna grab the moon, as one does. And we're gonna resize the exit that's actually on the moon, and we're gonna walk through it. Right here is the first instance of portals, of resizing portals in this game. We're going to go more into detail about that when it comes to resizing portals in a later level called Dollhouse. But for now, we are going to go into this next level called Cubism. But while this loading screen has happened, I just want to reiterate why we're timing things in IGT and not RTA. It's mainly because of the loading screens in between. You don't want your machine's capabilities to be the reason why you're losing time, but also because even if your machine can load everything instantly, we have randomized loading screens in this game, and so you can't really, even if your machine is done loading the next level, you can't be put into the next level until the loading screen is done with its animation. So for those two reasons, we tend to time it in IGT. But with that, we are going to go to Cubism. Cubism is all about cubes, as the name implies, except none of the cubes in this game are actually like normal. As you can see, we skipped the first cube in the first puzzle by jumping onto that pole in the end. Then we got a half cube, and the cube went out of the floor. And now we have these funky cubes. Although we don't really have to touch them at all. We can just ledge grab onto here and keep going. And in this next room, we're going to see more cubes that we think are normal, but we can just slide them into the floor and out of the wall like that. And Cubism is actually an incredibly optimized level, especially in this next area, where we can grab the side of a cube and just use it as a ramp to go up. And of course, this last cube, where you grab a piece of the cube that explodes in order to get up to this next platform. And of course, a giant cube at the end that you think is going to be normal, but then leads you to an entirely different area. And with that, that is Cubism. It is one of the most optimized levels in the game. Everyone's times on the leaderboards is kind of very close to each other when it comes to Cubism, only because it's pretty much all intended movement. The only real optimizations that we have is, cutting corners, trying to avoid ledge grabs, all that jazz. It's something that is really, really important in a run that this short, and really important in glitchless runs in total. You don't have to rely on huge skips or glitches or anything like that, or just stuff going right. It's purely skill and purely movement based. That's not even an exaggeration. It's around 90% movement. Someone did the math on that. I could be off with the numbers, but yeah, it's very movement oriented, as is the nature of glitchless runs. Speaking of which, Blackout is pretty much all movement as well. There's really no interacting with any objects in this game, except for this one right here that we're going to grab right here in order to just get out of the way. But it's very tiny at the very end of this hallway, so we don't really have to worry about it. But Blackout is actually an incredibly good level casually, because it takes the perception is reality motif and puts it in a more metaphorical sense. Casual players are actually very, very frightened by this level when they play it for the first time, because the game gives off the impression that it's about to turn into a horror game. But then at the end, you realize there's actually not a lot to worry about. In this pit, there is a path that we can take along this bridge, but and I missed it. It's fine, but if you know what you're doing, you can actually just jump across like this. I jumped ever so slightly too soon. You can actually see that I almost ledge grab onto the ledge. If I had just jumped a little bit later, it would have still worked. And of course, I didn't mention, but we are going to be jumping upstairs, because usually in platforms like this, when you walk upstairs, your movement speed actually gets ever so slightly decreased, and so just those natural time saves, those small time saves add up a lot throughout the run. right here, we're going to back up into darkness in order to use the light of this area in front of us to make our way through and jump up these stairs. And the main skip behind Blackout is one I'm going to be doing right now. It is called Blind Maze. Right behind me, as I'm walking backwards, there is a maze of boxes, and originally what you're supposed to do is actually take a light source and walk through the maze yourself. Walk through the maze with that light source, but if you're like us, you don't even need the light. You can just walk backwards and solve the maze by yourself. And the way that we do that is if you turn your quality settings all the way down, or at least that's the way it worked for me. There's a little bit different ways that it works for other players, especially console players, but what we have here is when I get into the blind maze, I walk backwards, and then when I get into the blind maze, when there's no more light, there's a slight sliver of light that peeks through one of the boxes that you can use as a reference point for your movement when you walk backwards. And that actually is, in my opinion, the easiest and fastest way to solve blind maze, if you can have that visual cue for your movement. Although we've been getting really, really optimized strats, and some people actually throw their weight all together and do blind maze forward instead of backwards, and just seeing that is absolutely insane. But yeah, that is Blackout. And at the end, you saw there that there was actually nothing to worry about. All of the scary themes that we had in Blackout, all the fake blood that we saw on the floors, it was actually just red paint. There was nothing to be scared about. And so it takes that perception is reality thing and moves it to a different light, when in reality, the only thing that was scary about it was the fact that you made it scary. But here we have Clone. And as the name implies, we're going to be cloning objects, except for this first object. Of course, the game likes to mess with your expectations because it doesn't tell you the name of the levels when you first play this casually. So you think that it's just going to be another normal level, but then when you get to this area right here, we can clone objects. We're going to clone these ones and use them as a stair. And then at the other side of this hall, when you get the fake clouds, we're going to see this alarm clock. And this alarm clock we can actually use to get up here and have it tilt slightly upwards so we can use it as a ramp to get to the end of that room. And of course, next is the green apple room, where you can just clone an apple and then push it into this apple on the button in order to open this door. And this is the infamous red apple room. This is the puzzle that a lot of casual players often get stuck on. And with that, we are able to jump up these stairs. And the solution is actually incredibly simple. You just have to do that. A lot of people don't realize that the cloning mechanic is also based on perception. So if you line up the apple as if it were to be on top of the green button, and then you clone it, it'll just pop right onto the green button and open the door behind you. Again, this is another level that's pretty optimized, and the cloning mechanic is actually very selective. There's not really any set rules on how the cloning mechanic works. Sometimes you can grab an object that you cloned. Sometimes when you clone an object, you can't grab it. It just keeps cloning infinitely. It definitely depends on the puzzle that you're doing and what part of the level you're at. That the cloning mechanic is incredibly specific, especially with collectibles like that, like the fire extinguishers. So there's not really a set rule for how the cloning mechanic works. However, if you manage to clone 100 of the same kind of object, you'll get an achievement that says, why are you like this? Because you cloned so many objects. However, 100 is a max of one object you can clone. The game will not let you clone more than 100 objects at a time. But with that, we are going into Dollhouse. Dollhouse is everyone's favorite level, and I'm going to say that incredibly sarcastically because in reality, we all hate it. It is the level that gives everyone the most trouble, especially beginners. It's either a time saver or a huge time loss. And the reason for that is the main mechanic behind that I mentioned earlier, and it is resizing portals. And when you resize a portal, you're not only resizing the portal that you're going through, but you're also resizing yourself. And we're going to see that right here. In this first room, when we fall down here, we're going to take this house, we're going to make it bigger, and then we're going to walk through it. And depending on how big or how small you make the object, you are also making yourself bigger or smaller. And with that, it's kind of like a balancing act that you want to play, because you don't want to make it too big, because otherwise you won't be able to fit through the door like I had at the end right here. However, if you make it too small, you're going to be walking really, really slowly to your next destination. And so it's stuff like that that you really want to optimize and work on, especially as a beginner when it comes to Dollhouse. because it's a level that you're going to waste the most time on. And in certain cases, you don't even realize that you're wasting a lot of time, like in this next room. For example, we're going to take this fan, we're going to resize it on the door, we're going to have it knock down this Jenga tower so that I can go through this portal right here. And as you see there, the Jenga tower is having a bit of a tough time walking or getting knocked down. If you don't angle things perfectly or resize things perfectly, you can honestly waste a lot more time than you think you would, because things just naturally will move slower, and you'll naturally move slower if you walk through a portal that you accidentally made too big. Right here, we're going to take this bouncy castle, we're going to line it up so that it's right against there, and we're going to just go walk through it. That's actually a perfect resize. I never had a resize that go that smoothly. We're going to resize it again and go up to this area and move it up to the top ledge so we can walk through this portal right here. Luckily, we had a good size, so we can just walk through this area pretty quickly. And then we're going to do this keyhole room by taking this portal, and as it falls down, we're going to walk through it and jump through the keyhole. And then we're going to take this last area. I made this last dollhouse a bit too big, so I'm walking a bit slower than I would care to, but we're just going to walk through there and get to the end of the level. And of course, this next level is called Labyrinth, and right at the beginning of Labyrinth, I'm going to do a trick called audio skips. Now, what you're going to be seeing me doing is a bit of what seems like senseless parkour, but it's not senseless at all. There is a specific purpose for it, and that's because this entire hallway section is covered in 5 audio triggers, and we found a way to skip 3 of them, but only 2 of them save time. Let's see if I got that first one. Okay, the line that was supposed to play was error analysis complete, and we didn't see that, so thank goodness the first one worked. And the second one should work as well. If we jump over onto the speaker and then jump over, that should have worked. Yeah, that did work. We didn't get that audio trigger either. And so we successfully did both audio skips by skipping. And the reason that we do that is because we want to get to this final audio trigger, because this audio trigger will actually teleport you and move you on to the rest of the level. And in this next area, we're actually going to be lining ourselves up because we're going to be transported back to that beginning room with the alarm clock a total of 3 times. And while your horizontal positioning will change, your vertical positioning will not. So I'm just going to be lining up my crosshair for certain visual cues in this level so that I can just spam click and then hit the alarm clock when I get teleported back, because only with the alarm clock will the door behind me open. And I can progress. And up next, we have a frame perfect trick. Let me just get this alarm clock real quick. Get it? Because you're jumping through a frame and you did it perfectly. Haha. I hope you all like puns. Thank you to Hippienator for that one. And with this level, it's all about messing with your expectations. And like, as you can see here, you think you're going to just walk forward, you're going to fall down. We're going to see if we can get this door early. We got that door early because we can just move it out of the way as soon as we get down here by grabbing it through the door frame. And yeah, this level is very trippy to the average casual player, because it's just all about messing with your expectations, especially with the very difficult puzzle that we're going to come up with in a bit. But first, we gotta just, break through the floor naturally. Alright, but as I'm holding backwards, we're entering a very important puzzle. It's a very difficult puzzle, casually speaking, because a lot of people get confused as to what you're supposed to do. But the game never really explains it to you all that clearly. What you're supposed to do is the sign above the hall number is telling you where you should be going, but you're actually supposed to look the opposite direction of the sign, because whichever way that you look first will always have the do not enter, and then the next way that you look will have the door. And that's this puzzle that a lot of people get really, really confused on, because there's not really a clear-cut explanation for why you should be doing it. Right here, we're going to grab this. We're going to walk backwards with it. Ooh! We're going to walk backwards with it so that it hits the button and we can keep our momentum, but unfortunately we did mess it up a bit. These next few cubes we're going to use in order to teleport us to different parts of the level. All pretty intended, again. It's very confusing if you haven't played this game before, so I apologize if you're being exposed to this for the first time. And right here is a thing called Elevator Maze. Originally, what you're supposed to do is get lost in the maze until you find an arrow on the floor that'll lead you to where you need to go. But we do have a set path for the maze. It is called right, right, left, right, left, right, right. We do have a slightly updated version of that that's a bit faster, like not like half a second, if that. But that is the most common route that people use in order to get through elevator maze. Right here we have this room that when we walk into the walls, the area will actually turn into 4 walls, and you don't even have to be looking at the walls to be triggering them. And when you trigger all 4 walls, the room in the center will appear, and you can move on to the next level. Right here, we're going to create a paradox by putting a portal within to itself. And with that, I think right now is a good time for any donations that HUDs would like to say or any plugs that they want to make, because the majority of this final level is just kind of walking.
No problem. Thank you very much, Ozmourn. No further donations at the moment, but I would like to remind everyone that we are raising money to support Crisis. They are a charity that supports people out of homelessness for good, and they achieve this through education, training, and support with housing, employment, and health. 90% of your donations go towards supporting Crisis, 10% are retained by UKSG to help us support and put on future events for you. I would like to let everyone know as well that we are just $241 away from that magic $3,000 mark. We can definitely reach that tonight, chat, so do please keep your donations coming in.
Alright, thank you so much, HUDs. And in this next area, we actually have a very small optimization that we found in our practice mod. The practice mod actually tells you the exact size of the player, and when you walk through this portal specifically, it's kind of messed up, and it puts you at size, I believe, 0.98 or 0.998 or something like that. And so since you're slightly smaller than size 1, which is the default size for the character in most cases, you are moving ever so slightly slower. And not only that, but the future portals that you go through in this level that'll lead you to different parts of the map, it will slightly increase your size to size 1 and then size 0.1 or whatever the exact measurement is. I always forget what it is. It's not a full tenth of a decimal, but it does slightly increase as you go through the portals. And if you reset the checkpoint, you'll start at size 1 and then progressively get bigger ever so slightly as you walk through every portal in the game. And so with that, you can walk slightly faster, and if you do that, if you reset the checkpoint there, you are actually saving a total of around 2 seconds just from resetting checkpoint and making yourself slightly bigger throughout the level. It is a free time save, and it is free 2 seconds if you want to get a PB like that. It's something that mostly advanced runners use, even though it's a very easy strat that beginners can even implement. But I don't really see a lot of beginners using that strat. It's mainly intermediate or advanced players that have already had a good amount of experience with the game that end up using it. But with that, we're going to grab Windows 11 right here, and we're going to use it as a block up here. And this next portion, we have to be very careful because we're going to turn off this light switch, and when we turn off the light switch, our crosshair will disappear, the entire screen will go black, as if the game is trying to tell us that it is over. But what we need to do, right when we turn off this light, is we need to immediately turn around. And with that, you need, and why we need to turn around like immediately is because if you just walk backwards without looking at one of the signs that are on the other side of the area that you were just teleported to, your crosshair that disappeared will actually never come back. It'll still be functional. You can still pick up objects and resize them. It's just going to be really hard for you to have a reference point for where you're going to be grabbing them because the crosshair just won't be there. And with that, we're getting into the last 2 big strats of the game. We're going to be resizing this chess piece slowly so that we can get up to this next area. And we're going to be using this chess piece in order to jump across this board. Originally, you're supposed to be using 2 chess pieces because whatever tile you are underneath will be solid only if you put a chess piece on it. And so the intended solution is to put 1 chess piece and put another chess piece and then move the first chess piece over to the 3rd tile. But in that case, we just use 1 chess piece and we quickly jumped and replace it before we land on the next tile. And of course, the last strat we have is another jump resize that we saw in Optical. We're going to be using that cube and jumping up to get to this door right here. That'll skip a cheese ramp that we were supposed to use in order to get up to that door in the first place. But with that, we are going here. Photosensitivity warning. A bit of a very quick warning on my part, but again, a quick photosensitivity warning for those who are epileptic, because this area even hurts my eyes. But with that, this is a 23-second fall. Looks like we're going to get a sub 23 in this area. That's absolutely amazing. But with that, after this fall, there is a loading screen. At the other side of that loading screen, there is a alarm clock that we're going to hit. And on the alarm clock, that is when time is going to be. So please be ready on time. Let's see if we can get a sub one retrospect. Come on. And time. 22:47.4. That is a very respectable time, still sub 23. What was my RTA, HUD, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, your RTA was 23:53.
That's very, very good. All right. But yeah, that has been Superliminal Glitchless. It is a very approachable run, very beginner-friendly run. A lot of people use this as their first speed run. And so if you are interested in running this game or in just joining the community, I would highly encourage you to look us up on Superliminal.com. Join the Discord. It's a very lovely community, and we have a lot of people involved, a lot of good runners, especially now since we're doing a tournament. If you want to participate, say help out with it, run the game a bit, and then come and join us. We would love to have new runners, and if you want to join in future tournaments or future events that we're going to do, then please buy this game. Even if you're going to play it casually, buy this game and join the community so we can geek out about it. But with that, I want to thank everyone in the Superliminal community who have been working hard and making this a group effort for the tournament and just keeping a wonderful community alive. And yeah, I want to thank HUDs for hosting. I want to thank UKSG for having me back once again. I believe the last time I was on here, I did Ape Out, so I'm glad to be showing off Superliminal. And yeah, I don't really have much else to say, I don't think. You can follow me on Twitch or on Twitter, Ozmourn on all platforms. I don't really post or stream all that much, but when I do, I hope that I can, give you a good time. But with that, the main thing I just want is, doesn't matter if you are on PC, console, come join the game, come run it with us, and that's all I could really ask for. But with that, I want to again thank you so much, UKSG, for having me. And what is the next run, Huts, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, thank you, Ozmourn. The next run is going to be Zonorous and 30 Puns running Batman Arkham City New Game Plus.
Oh, wonderful. Good luck to Zonorous and 30 Puns. I know both of those people, and they're actually wonderful runners, wonderful people. So, again, thank you guys so much for having me. I've been Ozmourn. This has been Superliminal Glitchless. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys have enjoyed the run. I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of the marathon. So, thank you so much. I'll see you around.
Thank you, Ozmourn. Yep, don't go anywhere, chat. We will be back with that next run very shortly.